doing a check-in to make sure that everyone received the email that Kendra sent with the information on the welcome and introductions and all of that. You got it? Okay. Ferranda, you got it? You looking at you looking at the screen and I'm like, are you looking at me? You got it, Ferranda? I can't hear you. Are you speaking?
Okay. Yep.
Ferranda, you talking to us?
Open
You
this.
can hear me? Yes, ma'am. I got it.
There we go. Okay. All right. I just want to be sure everybody has that.
And this attendee list, if you see anybody pop in there, you're going to move it. Click on them and look at it.
Okay. Thanks, Dad.
I'll hang around and make sure everybody.
Testing. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Tamika.
Hello.
Hello.
So in this new age of technology, we are now live. So please put your Good evening. So glad to be with you this evening. I am Tamika Edwards, and I am the chair of the Independent Review Committee. Many of you have heard from, seen, or additional information from this committee or even about this committee that Mayor Frank Scott Jr. appointed in June for us to look at the policies and procedures of the Little Rock Police Department. We thought that it was important for us to get as much community feedback as possible as we go through this entire process, because it would be impossible for us to ensure that we give the appropriate recommendations or the necessary recommendations without the community's input. For those of you who are joining us, we will make brief introductions of members of the Independent Review Committee, and then we'll get into the scope of our work as well as many of the comments that we've received thus far. We want to ensure that the information that we receive is well taken and that it is useful, so do not be so we want to ensure that we use this information. So please continue to send us information based on the links that you saw in the graphic earlier. So let's get to it. We will start with the introduction of our committee members, and we'll start with Dr. Richard.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Terry Trevino Richard. I'm a professor of sociology and anthropology at the University of Arkansas. I am also the ex-state director for the League of United Latin American Citizens. And as so, I have seen my primary job as reaching out to the Latino community to really see what type of issues and problems that they have had in terms of with the police as well as policing within that community. And I'm working with a number of groups right now. It's been an eye-opener in terms of sharing that information with the rest of my colleagues, so I'm really glad they're here as well.
Thank you, Lieutenant Bowers.
Good evening. My name is Benny Bowers. I'm a retired lieutenant, assistant commander for the Michigan State Police. I served 25 years with the Michigan State Police. My last assignment was at the largest post in the state, which was Detroit, Michigan. My current assignment, based on the Independent Review Committee, is to support and focus on the training and professional standards, which are my background indicates that I have an extended experience in training and support for communities like the Little Rock community. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Byrd. Associates Law Office. I was born and raised in Little Rock, and I'm a product of the Little Rock School District. I have served as a cooperating attorney with the NAACP Legal Defense Fund since my return to Arkansas in the mid-'80s. Prior to returning to Arkansas, I did public policy in Washington, D.C. With LDF, and over the years, I've worked on civil rights cases, which have included voting rights, and our cases have included ballot access and redistricting. I've done employment law, and I've litigated early on police misconduct cases. I will be serving on the committee that is involved with the handling of private and confidential information. Thank you so very much. John DePippa.
My name is John DePippa. I am Dean Emeritus and William J. Clinton Professor of Constitutional Law and Public Service at the UALR Bowen School of Law. I've been there since 1983, and for all those years I've taught constitutional law. In addition, I've also taught constitutional criminal procedure, where I've published some articles. Currently, I am writing and publishing in the area of free speech. I'm serving on the Personnel Policies Committee, and hoping to bring my expertise in constitutional law to the larger deliberations.
Thank you. Attorney Kimmerling.
Thank you. I am Michelle Kimmerling. I grew up in Little Rock and have been practicing at Wright, Lindsay and Jennings here in town for almost 20 years. I'm an employment lawyer. And so my work on this committee will focus on the subject of harassment and misconduct.
Thank you. Attorney Casey.
My name is Paula Casey. I am an attorney, and in that capacity, I've worked as a legal services attorney, as a public defender for the United States Senate, as a federal prosecutor, as a professor at the law school, as an interim dean at the law school, and in the area of, as an interim provost for research and dean of the graduate school. So a wide range of things. I'm serving on the committee with Archie Berg for Freedom of Information Act issues and private and confidential information.
Attorney Brassfield.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ferronda Brassfield. I'm an attorney with primary practice in Arkansas County, Arkansas. For those of you that are not familiar, that's Stuttgart, DeWitt, Gillette, that area. I'm working with a number of groups, the Arkansas Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty, Decarcerate, Arkansas Citizens First Congress. I'm supportive of the Arkansas Poor People's Campaign, amongst other groups. And I am on this committee because I'm concerned about police reform. I've been injured in a police chase pursuit. As a teen, I had an assault rifle pulled on me by a local police officer in Stuttgart. And I've seen firsthand the effects that problematic policing can have on communities. I'm serving, I'm one of the, I guess I'm the floater in the group, so I'm serving on the Personnel Policies and Procedures Committee, the Training and Professional Standards Committee, and the Harassment and Misconduct Committee. I'm happy to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And as you've heard from the committee members, there were specific topics that they discussed, and I neglected to explain that in the very beginning. They did their job. I was a little derelict in finishing my duties. So I want to just lay out the primary objectives of our committee and then go over those 4 categories as they have explained them. The objective of this review is to ensure compliance with best practices in policy, procedure, and protocol. That these things are being carried out by our officers and department leadership. Our committee will work in collaboration with the firm yet to be determined, and that will be selected through the request for qualifications process. We will review the LRPD and City of Little Rock policies, identify specific issues needing further evaluation, interview any necessary parties, determine the appropriate scope of the review, and set the parameters for the research, analysis, and recommendations from the firm. This committee will serve in an advisory role to the selected firm, providing context and direction for the additional legal and technical review. And so you have, as you've heard from our committee members, we are looking at 4 broad topics. Those include personnel policies and procedures, training and professional standards, handling of private/confidential information, and harassment/misconduct. I'm serving on the Harassment and Misconduct Committee, and as you heard from our other committee members, their specific areas. And so what we want to know from you all today, many of you have sent in information based online as well as called in, and I will read those comments so that everyone can hear them. But what we want to know from our community members tonight is, what else should we be looking at? What we recognize is that we do not know every single thing, and we've not had every single experience. And so it is vitally important for the community to help lead and guide this process alongside the committee members. And so with that being said, I'll start with some of the comments that we've received online as well as called in. Mr. Keith Gilligan said that much is said about the police, police must live in the city. He sees this as putting the police in danger of retaliation and putting their families in danger as well. He wants to know if there is a compromise that can be reached where officers who live outside the city are denied use of city cars to drive home in. Should the mayor, police chief, or any city official comment or act in any way, pro or con, to officers before due process is complete? And like a lottery cage, randomly pick 3 officers every week and review every contact they had with public, and maybe that could show officers their own shortcomings they are not aware of. And so I'll continue to read some of these comments as well as the comments that we receive online. We will not provide additional commentary because this information will be carried to the vendors, so that we can work alongside and research any additional information. And as I stated earlier, please, if you did not send in any information early on, please continue to send in information at the call-in number, email, or make comments on Facebook as we receive that information, and YouTube. Someone else has commented about an express of concern for street parking in the neighborhood. The streets are too curvy and sometimes too narrow for cars, and it definitely seems like a hazard. She'd like for these issues to be addressed. And so as we think about some of the things that have come to light, we have to be thoughtful about the scope of the work that we're doing based on the policies and procedures and protocols of the Little Rock Police Department. And so you'll continue to hear me repeat that over and over as I read through many of the comments that have been submitted. Someone else has commented that she is concerned about how the LRPD is handling volunteers. Community members have informed her that they require members to pay to become a volunteer. What volunteer options are being provided by LRPD? Are there any free options for the public? I don't see why an agency supported by our taxes would require us to pay to become a volunteer. She previously sent an FOI to LRPD to get more information about volunteering and was told that the person who handles the data has no documents or emails that relate to volunteering. How is that possible? A public agency should keep records of volunteer programs or activities, and she believes that a volunteer program at LRPD needs to be reviewed. Another Little Rock resident says that she is a teen and presented a program called Cahoots to the police task force and subcommittee that the governor set up recently. And just a brief description of what Cahoots is in dealing with the crisis assistance help out on the streets. And it is a mobile crisis intervention team designed as an alternative to police response for nonviolent crises. Basically, a 911 dispatcher calls on this unit for a lot of nonviolent calls, including mental health and homelessness. They show up specifically just to help in any way they can, and more importantly, with no policing power. They have been around working for over 30 years in the city of Oregon, and given all of the talk about police reform nationwide, other cities such as Denver and NYC are looking to adopt a similar program. He is interested in any comments, discussion, or concerns around this group from people who are watching at home. Some other comments that have come in: licensure process for police officers. If they receive complaints, it should be investigated by an independent committee. If complaint is verified, it will be logged in the officer's record. Numerous complaints result in disciplinary action. Non-emergency phone numbers are ineffective, this person says. When is it answered? You are passed from officer to officer without any resolution. there's a specific area that is noted here. It deals with the criminal activity in Fair Park is not addressed, drug activity on parking lots, three-wheelers and main streets, etc. Says, please address police officers stopping Black men for speeding and giving the choice to receive a ticket or to be fingerprinted. This person is concerned about the role the police union plays in protecting bad apples, quote unquote, on the force, like getting officers rehired after being fired. There are some racial concerns within the department that bleed into the community. Look at the demographics and representation. Those are the comments that we received online as well as call-in comments. And I'm waiting to hear back to see if so this is all new for us living in this virtual environment. So we are waiting to see what other comments we've received online. And you can comment on YouTube as well as Facebook, where the link has been shared, if there are any comments. And we will continue to hold open those lines for comments because we understand that this is a very important topic and we must have the community alongside us as we make these decisions. So the comment period will not end here. We will keep the email address open as well as the phone number so that people, even after watching this broadcast, can continue to add comments and other commentary. So hold on one moment while we switch. We're getting comments about the audio, so please stand by.
I need to use this. We received some comments. Oh, technology. So we've received some comments. Can you all hear me? We received comments that it was difficult hearing me online. Please let us know if this is better. Oh, much better. Oh, so y'all are commenting. Do y'all have any additional questions? And because there was difficulty hearing me earlier, I will review the comments that were submitted online and just briefly make additional, I'll just tell y'all what they said. How about that? So much is said about the police in the city that they live in. This was a suggestion for a compromise to be reached where officers who live outside the city are denied use of cars to drive home. The suggestion is that should the mayor, police chief, or any city official comment or act in any way, pro or con, to officers before due process is complete, like a lottery cage, randomly pick 3 officers every week and review every contact they had with public, and maybe that could show officers their own shortcomings they are not even aware of. Someone else commented about living in the Meadowcliff area and expressed concern about street parking as well as in the neighborhood, and notice what seems like stalled or non-working cars along Meadowcliff. Someone else has expressed concern about how the LRPD is handling volunteers. Community members have informed me they require members to pay to become a volunteer. What volunteer options are being provided by the LRPD? Are there any free options for the public? She doesn't see why an agency supported by tax dollars would require us to pay to become a volunteer. She previously sent an FOI to the LRPD to get more information about volunteering and was told that the person who handles the data has no records or emails that relate to volunteering. How is that possible? A public agency should keep records of volunteer programs or activities, and she believes that the volunteer program at LRPD needs to be reviewed. Someone else commented about a program called Cahoots, and that stands for Crisis Assistance Helping Out on the Streets. It is a mobile crisis intervention team designed as an alternative to police response to nonviolent crises. Basically, it's a 911 dispatcher on the unit for a nonviolent call, including mental health and homelessness. They show up specifically just to help any way they can without any policing power. They have been around and working for over 30 years in Oregon, and given all the talk around police reform nationwide, other cities such as Denver and NYC are looking to adopt the program. We had call-in comments that addressed licensure process for all police officers. If they receive complaints, it should be investigated by an independent committee. If complaint is verified, it would be logged in the officer's record. Numerous complaints result in disciplinary action. A non-emergency number is ineffective. When it is answered, you are passed from officer to officer without any resolution. There was a comment about criminal activity in Fair Park, as well as drug activity in the parking lots. Someone wants us to address officers stopping Black men for speeding and given the choice to receive a ticket or fingerprinted. Someone else called in as being concerned about the role the police union plays in protecting bad apples on the force, like getting officers rehired after being fired. There are some racial issues within the department that bleed into the community. Look at the demographics and representation. We've received other comments that have come in. Someone said approximately 2 weeks ago, they witnessed the LRPD chase a young man suspected of an attempted check forgery. As he left the bank, the bank had called the police. LRPD cruisers pursued the young man in high-speed chase through residential areas of Little Rock. I watched helplessly and fearfully as the young man lost control of his vehicle, caused a head-on collision, and died on the spot. I do not fault the young man because I do not know what factors contributed to his need for money, though I can take a few guesses given we are living through a pandemic and our economy is unstable. I do, however, fault the police for giving a chase to this young man and causing his untimely death, something that has happened on more than one occasion in Little Rock. Will the IRC consider adopting new community policing policies that would mitigate the possibility of high-speed chases in residential areas? Can the economic instability many people, especially Black and brown people, are facing be taken into consideration when police are investigating nonviolent alleged crimes, perhaps in conjunction with trauma-informed first responders? Someone else has commented, I would love to hear the committee's comments on additional training for officers in their interactions with emotionally disturbed individuals. Any collaboration? So as we said at the onset that we want to receive comments from the community members, and at this time we will not answer questions about the substantive questions being forwarded to the vendors, as we want to pass that information on to the vendors for feedback. However, any technical questions about the process, we're more than happy to answer at this time, but we do not want to interfere or interject any bias until this process, and we want to hear from our community members so we can pass your information along as it is stated. And as you can see, taking the time to read through these, this is the purity and the transparency that we want to move forward to ensure that community voices are being heard. Someone commented, any collaboration with LRPD and Arkansas State Police. Someone else has stated, training that explains to the police the Latino culture about their interaction with the police. And as we're here, please continue to send in your comments via online or via phone, and we will read them so that many others can hear and maybe even spark additional conversation or questions to come from the comments. So if you see me looking up, it's because I'm waiting for additional comments to come in. We have had members to comment about LRPD records and that tax revenue should not go to fund known dishonest police officers hired to enforce the law and protect private property. Please continue to send in your comments, questions, or concerns. Someone has commented that they would love to see higher training standards more than a high school diploma or a GED. I know we have more comments coming in. Would any of our esteemed committee members like to make any comments at this time about the work that they've been doing over the 4 pillars? Attorney Brassfield, I saw your hand move.
I probably was.
You went back on mute.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, ma'am, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, great. I was probably just fidgeting, but I will comment that we have had a number of discussions about how to integrate professionals into policing. We know that police officers are not social workers. We know that they're not psychologists. And so we have had conversations along those lines, and we are looking for solutions to those types of issues.
Thank you so much for chiming in. We've had a couple of more comments come in, and so Attorney Brassfield, I'm certain that you sparked those comments. We've had several of them come in just a couple of seconds. I would like to have a way to deal with non-criminal matters without calling the police after hours. For example, someone parked blocking my driveway after hours, and my only option, I promise I know how to work technology, but Is it clear now? Someone has commented, what is the policy on drug testing and psychological exams? Mr. Thompson has said, and that was Ron Mack, but Mr. Thompson has said, does LRPD have any partnerships with federal agencies under the direction of the Department of Homeland Security, particularly Immigration and Customs Enforcement? And I'm finishing up a comment from Karen J., where she commented that, for example, someone parked blocking her driveway after hours, and her only option was to call the police, which is overkill. Officers should not be allowed to use their badges to be city-paid bullies. That was a comment that we received. Ms. Hinton said, I would like to see, or Mrs. Hill said, I would like to see there be more transparency about the partnerships or any partnerships or MOUs that the LRPD may have with ICE. So please continue to send your comments in, and we will read them aloud, as well as make sure that we have these notes for our vendors once we procure them. And at this time, would any of our other committee members like to make comments?
I think that these are
I wouldn't mind commenting on both Buckner's and Humphrey's policy on working with ICE, and for the Little Police Department for the last decade, they're more concerned with catching the predators and individuals who commit crimes than they are the status of undocumented individuals that live in our community. And that is a PR campaign and it needs to be continued, because the reality is that many Latinos that are undocumented don't want to call the police because they're afraid that ICE would be called. And the reality is that our police department, under the last several police chiefs, has never made that a policy of the police department. They want to catch the perpetrators, not harass individuals who are often hard workers here in the city.
Thank you, Dr. Rashad. Attorney Byrd.
I just want to compliment the public. These are some really thoughtful.
Hold on.
I just want to thank and compliment. Is it muted now?
You're good. Go ahead.
Am I good? Oh, I just want to thank the public and compliment them. These are really some excellent questions and feedback, and they're raising perspectives on the categories that we're covering that is not only enlightening, but interesting, and has given me more information about how these issues impact you out in the community. So keep them coming. I'm learning a lot.
Can you hear me now? Okay. A number of people have commented to me that when they make complaints about specific interactions with police officers, that they feel as if nothing is done, or they are unsure if that complaint that they make goes into a sea of nothingness. And so I am passing along concerns that when people make complaints about interactions that they've had with our police department, that those complaints will, the process will be transparent for citizens, and that those complaints will be taken seriously and followed up on, so that citizens don't feel as if their voices are not being heard in that process.
Thank you so much, Attorney Brasfield, for saying that. That's vitally important that you pointed that out, that these comments will be taken seriously, and we don't want anyone to believe that these comments will not be passed along and considered as we go through this entire process. So thank you so much for saying that. I do have a question for our audience. If you were able to hear Attorney Byrd's comments. If you were not, she commented by thanking community members by passing along so many. You can't hear me? And I sounded so eloquent. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yes? No? 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 So I'm not certain what's happening. Can you hear me now?
Tamika, you're going in and out. You're going in and out.
I see another comment. Ron Mack asked, is there...
Thank you.
Sound also.
Can you all hear me? Can you hear me now? You can't hear me. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yes, okay. So I was finishing that. Attorney Byrd said, thank you so much to our community members who have submitted questions and comments. It's much appreciated. And is that about it, Attorney Byrd?
And that they're thoughtful questions, and it also tells me that people are thinking about these issues. They're paying attention to what's going on the ground in their community, and that's exactly the kind of feedback that I think can help us in fashioning something that hopefully can work for the community and address some of the issues that they are raising.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go back to our comments. Y'all are really supportive in this as we work through any of our technical difficulties. So we had someone else to comment about possible incentives for officers that receive specialized training. Ron Mack said, is there currently a database for fired or dismissed officers? Mrs. Hill said, can the IRC work with vendors to provide reports, research on funding models for policing that are not exorbitant to taxpayer dollars, but also utilize unique funding options for safety net programs? And so we've had another question or comment to come in from Rosa. This is great. How are you planning to ensure the Latinx community can participate in this event? Will there be Spanish translation available? Absolutely, there will be. I see Dr. Richard like, yes, 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 there will be. So thank you so much, Rosa, for your comment as well as your question. Please continue to send your questions or comments to us via this channel or sending it in online or even calling. So we had a time set aside until 8 o'clock, but we recognize that we won't hold you long if we do not have additional questions to consider. But we also want you to know that we plan to keep all of our channels open for you to continue to send comments for the committee that we can pass along to the vendors at that time. And at this time, I also want to say that there is a plan that once we have our independent review, for us to come back as a community to review any recommendations or any feedback that we've received thus far. So this isn't the only time that we will spend time to capture community thoughts, questions, and concerns. We're in this together. We want to move along together so that your voices are always prominent in this process. You've seen the individual review committee members. Many of you know us personally, and if there are other comments that you want to pass along, please feel free to let us know what those comments or questions are. We've not had any other comments come in. And again, we just want to remind you that you can continue to provide feedback through these channels, the channels that you saw on the graphic, the phone number, and the email addresses. And that phone number is 501-371-4722. You can email your comment at irc@littlerock.gov. irc@littlerock.gov. And we'll hold it open on this platform for just a couple of more minutes until we receive other questions, comments, or concerns. And if we do not receive them at this time, we will log off. But remember that you can continue to send your information in. You can participate 371-501-371-4722, or email your comments to us at irc@littlerock.gov. Oh, we've had something else come in. Can the IRC investigate decoupling bail-related fees and fines with minor offenses? People are trapped in poverty because the fines accumulate and they cannot pay. Nicole has said, have you explored body-based therapies for police officers like yoga? Jesse said, what about New Jersey-style bail reform? Nicole asked, where is the graphic? Nicole, the graphic is located on the City of Little Rock's website and social media platforms. The graphic also has the telephone number as well as the email address where you can submit any comments. The telephone number, I'll repeat, is 501-371-4722. And the email address is irc@littlerock.gov. If there are no other questions or concerns at this time, not saying that there won't ever be, we know there will be, but at this particular time, we will sign off unless other members of our independent review committee have any other comments, ending comments for our community members.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah, the only thing I would like is that, given that we really don't know when the COVID-19 pandemic is going to be over, that I think we need a kind of a temporary policy that addresses the threat that COVID-19 plays with both police officers as well as the suspects that they may encounter in traffic stops or in pursuits or going to people's homes, and that some kind of policy should ultimately, we should look at, or they should look at ways to make sure that everyone is protected during this COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, that's exactly why we're meeting virtually right now, is so that basically we all feel secure and safe.
Thank you so much, Dr. Richard. We've had Attorney Brassfield.
Yes, ma'am. There is a list of demands. I saw it on Facebook, a list of demands, and I also saw that there was a group of people that showed up to the city council meeting, or the city board meeting, with a list of demands and presented those to the council members and to the mayor. And so I definitely want to make sure that the public knows that we're including those and what we're passing along to the vendors, so that the voices of people that are working really, really hard to be heard on this issue, so that those things can be included as well.
Thank you so much, Attorney Brassfield. Yes, a list of those concerns and demands have been distributed to our committee members and have been put in our record for the vendors to see. Thank you so very much for mentioning that, so that the public knows that we are fully aware of what those demands are and will ensure that they are passed along. Thank you so much. We've had just two more comments to come in. Additional psychological support for officers and their families. And Mrs. Hill has said, last question, can the IRC work to end the need for school resource officers? It is not healthy for our students. We've added the graphic here for others to see, just in case you have additional questions. Please submit those at 501-371-4722 or to our email address at irc@littlerock.gov. A copy of this community meeting will maintain available on our YouTube channel. And again, if you have any other comments, questions, or concerns, please let us know. Another comment, thank you, Attorney Brassfield. I hope we are mindful of our language as well. People are people, not always suspect nor criminal. Thank y'all for your hard work. And thank you, community, for tuning in and being with us this evening. Again, we want to maintain the open lines of communication, so please reach out to us at 501-371-4722 or our email address at irc@littlerock.gov. We cannot do this without you, and we need everyone's voices in order to make sure that this is truly a community effort. Thank you again for being with us. We'll sign off for now. Oh, one more question. Can we start looking at making the crime labs civilian and disassociated from law enforcement? Well, thank you for appreciating us. We appreciate you. So if that's all for now, looking forward to coming back and being able to talk with you more about this, keeping the lines of communication open. Be sure to reach out to us, 501-371-4722 and irc@littlerock.gov. Thank you again, and good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Our chairperson, Tamika Edwards, thank you very much. You did a great job.
Yes, thanks, Tamika.
Thank y'all.
Mr. Tamika, you did a great